general managers recently came out with a poll, and they're ranking things for players, whether they're best at, whatever the case is. And LeBron James, of course, he got the most votes for being the best small forward in the game, basically being the best player in the game. He got 10 first place votes and stuff like that. Kevin Durant, in the poll, 40% of GMs said they wanted Kevin Durant taking the last shot. And a lot of GMs had LeBron penciled in for MVP this season. And, while these polls are interesting and you get to see what's coming up, and it's a FYI, the poll was based on what's going to happen this upcoming season. So who's going to be the MVP, who's going to make the most out of whatever, who do I want taking the last shot in this upcoming season and stuff like that. So these polls are interesting because you get to pick people's brains and GM's brains. And another interesting fact about that poll was none of the GMs could pick their own player. So that's cool. But one of the things that kind of got me a little bit is, like, for example, just the way that they picked their people. Like, some of the categories was leadership, best leader, teammate, things like that. And it just seems like when you look at these polls, LeBron James only seems to be like the safe answer. Like, he's the best player in the game, so he's the best leader or whatever, best this, best that in the game. But then if you really think about it, some of the things don't match up. So, like, for example, you say he's the best leader. Well, the best leader, he ran Kyrie out of town. He was constantly poking at Kevin Love. And, he made things really difficult in that Cleveland organization from time to time, holding them hostage with his decisions and all this other stuff. When I made the decision, am I staying or leaving and stuff like that. So, in that case, do you still consider him the best leader? Or is it simply strictly on the floor? But my thing is, I don't want us to fall into a lull where LeBron James is like the best everything in the game when he is great at a lot of things, but he's not the best at everything. Like, he's not the best three-point shooter. He's not the best free throw shooter. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's things that he's not good at. But when you look at these polls, the GMs, they just have like this safe answer, LeBron James. Like, no doubt. Like, defensively, LeBron James. But even when you look at him, his defensive win shares and his defense is not there, right? So, like, what are you talking about? So you got to really take these polls with a grain of salt. I wasn't surprised to see Kevin Durant get 40%. I was surprised that he didn't get like 60 or 70%. Why you want to take a last shot? Or maybe Damian Lillard would be up there as well. But these polls are really funny because we're polling GMs. These are the same GMs that drafted Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan. No knock against Sam Bowie. I'm just trying to give you an example. And Bobby Knight called the Portland Trailblazers, and Clyde Drexler went to the Portland Trailblazers front office. He said, please draft Michael Jordan. Draft him. Bobby Knight told you to draft Michael Jordan. He said we already got a small forward. He said play Michael Jordan at center. He even told you to do it. Legendary coach told you to draft Michael Jordan. What did you do? You draft Sam Bowie. Rest is history. These are the same GMs that drafted Greg Oden over Kevin Durant. Again, these are the same GMs that drafted Draymond Green in like the third or fourth round. So you got to be careful with these polls. Like, they know what they're doing in terms of being a general manager, because general manager is not just trading players. It's numbers, it's revenue stream, it's marketing. There's a lot of things that go into being a general manager. But take their opinions about basketball with a grain of salt, because general managers do get fired a lot. And I think it's because a lot of them do choose the safe answer, which is LeBron James. I mean, LeBron, you could pick him like as the best player or whatever, because I have no problem or qualm with that. But if there's some other categories, and he's getting first place, he's first place rebounder and that. Okay, so he's getting first place like in rebounding, for example. But then you got somebody like Anthony Davis, who's averaging 12 to 15 rebounds or something like that. So stuff like that is kind of ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous. One thing, though, that really angers me about that poll, and it kind of tells me what to expect about the Lakers season, when they did the poll, they asked the guys, okay, who's gonna be MVP, and most of them picked LeBron James. All right, so if you feel like he's gonna be MVP, then I should not expect him to basically lead the team to the playoffs, or like Stephen A says, Western Conference Finals. Because if we're already picking him head and shoulders about being the MVP, then the whole season is just going to be about stat padding, essentially, right? Because we're not talking about the team concept, we're just talking about him and being MVP, which means he's going to pad his stats. He's going to make LA look good for, a couple times, but then they're going to fall short. Because if we're talking about regular season awards for a guy that automatically makes you a contender, right, when he's on your team, right? That's what they say. LeBron James comes to your team, he automatically makes you a contender. So if the Lakers are a contender, why are we talking about regular season awards for LeBron James or anybody on the Lakers? When you look at like the Golden State Warriors or Cleveland last year, nobody cared about really if LeBron James was MVP. They was like, he's going to get to the finals? You know what I'm saying? Look at Golden State. Nobody cared if Steph was going to get MVP or KD was going to get MVP, or really if Draymond Green was going to earn another defensive player of the award. Everything was, are they going to repeat, go back to the finals? Are you going to make the playoffs? Like, that's the stuff that people care about. Nobody cares about these regular season MVPs, awards, stuff like that. So what that means to me is the GMs are projecting this upcoming season that he's going to be MVP. Then all bets are off in terms of postseason anything. Because if he's fighting for his life to be an MVP, we're in the wrong business. Or if the GMs think he's going to be fighting for his life for MVP, we're in the wrong business. LeBron James no longer should be mentioned in MVP races anymore, because he's pushed himself in upper echelon. He has 3 titles, 2 different teams. His whole deal should be like, and he said himself, he's chasing the ghost of Michael Jordan, whatever the case is. So he needs to be chasing rings. All these regular season MVPs, he shouldn't even be mentioned in it. He should get angered by people thinking he wants to be another MVP, and also nobody cares about that in terms of his greatness. Same thing with like a Kevin Durant. He has 2 chips. He already has an MVP. He shouldn't be worried about getting MVPs. Or like the other day, he was talking about defensive player of the year. Who cares if you get it? Now I know it feels good because not a lot of guys get it, honestly speaking, that have won regular season MVPs. MJ is probably like one of the fewest to ever do it. But in terms of like overall status, that shouldn't be the main concern. But this also goes back to this whole LeBron makes you a contender right off the bat. So now, and this is where the argument for LeBron is kind of counterintuitive with this poll, because people pick him first for a lot of things. Hey, you're first for this, first for that, first for this, first for that. You make us a contender. We believe you're going to be MVP. But then if you were to poll the same people and say, well, are they going to the Western Conference Finals? Can they make the playoffs? They're like, I don't know. Oh, the team around him, I don't know. But you're so confident that he makes you a contender. Why aren't they a contender now? Why aren't the Lakers a contender now? Because he made you a contender in the East. He doesn't necessarily make you a contender right off the bat in the West. And that's what a lot of people have to understand. Like, basketball is played the same way, but if your main competition is mediocre Eastern Conference teams, a lot of things look different. Not to say he want to do the same thing in the West in terms of his play, but the way he elevates his team is going to be different. Look at the way that his team is built now. Look at who he's going to be facing 3 and 4 times. The Rockets 4 times or 3 times. The Warriors 3 or 4 times. You're going to have to face good team. Like, for example, I give you a team that will do really good in the East. Dallas Mavericks. You put them in the East. So you're going to face teams like Dallas that have depth and stuff like that. Now, if you look at them, they got Dennis Smith Jr., they still got DeAndre Jordan. You're going to be facing better teams. So is he still going to elevate the team like he does elevate teams in the East? Because everything that they're basing their future projections on are what he's done in his prior history. But the thing they're not factoring is the Eastern and Western Conference. So that's why you get all of these polls where he's a head and shoulders above everybody else, but then his team success doesn't align with what the polls are saying about him individually. It's like, I don't feel like it's fair to rank somebody. I feel like it's fair to rank somebody high individually, but then at the same time, you got to keep it funky about what you're going to be doing in this upcoming season. Like, you can rank LeBron high, or you can feel like he's the best player in the game all around, but don't make it seem like the Lakers automatically got a Western Conference spot. Like, when Stephen A. says that, it's just like, it's too much. It's too much, puts too much pressure on them. And then that's when you get into the whole, I'm playing for individual numbers. Because if you look the last year in the playoffs, they almost got knocked out in the first round. They played 2 Game 7s, one in the Eastern Conference Open first round and the Eastern Conference Finals. So let's just say he gets knocked out there. Does this poll still reflect the same thing? So my thing is, with these polls, especially, they're gonna I want to see a poll like this next season, after he's done went through the gauntlet of the Western Conference teams, and if he gets knocked out in the first or second round, how do you feel about him then? And my idea or my prediction is that perception will change. That's where we're gonna start hearing that, oh, he's falling off the horse, he's falling off the wagon, his team's not good enough again. We're gonna hear the Lakers can't bring in enough pieces. We're gonna start hearing all these excuses again for the apologists, when you just have to call a spade, and the spade is what it is teams he played in the East and the teams he's gonna play in the West is 2 different animals, and that's something to be said when you're thinking about these polls. So take these polls with a grain of salt. Don't think this is the end all be all. Like, don't think everybody else is trash, or like LeBron James is like so much further than every single player in the NBA. Like, he's better than a lot of players in the NBA, but there are, I would say, 2 to 3 players that do deserve a little more respect when it comes to these polls. But again, how much respect can you expect to get from GMs that picked Greg Oden over Kevin Durant? Hoops Junction, where hoops meets hoopla.